288-3986. That is the way that you can contact us. We have Matt Kabinski on the phones. You can also go out to EWTN Radio's YouTube channel and Facebook page and leave your question for us there in the chat feature. Michael McCall will dash on out there and get that. And we have Rich Jesse producing. And Sue Brinkman is indeed with us. Hey there, Sue.
Hey, good to be back.
Yes, it is. It's good to have you with us this week. You know, last week we heard from David in Steubenville, Ohio. And David, we certainly do hope that you are listening today. And David asked us about the black-eyed people beings, and you went out there and did some research on this. And I thought we'd start off with this because I think that this is fascinating.
And it certainly goes with the music that we just heard. 'Cause
It does indeed.
it's a creepy, this is really what it is, a creepy urban legend is really what it
Okay.
is. It's about these black-eyed people, and they're mostly children. I read that
Mhm.
this it's like 6 to 16 is the average age group, and they have very black eyes, and they're saying it's not real dark brown or real dark blue, it's they're black, and there's actually no white showing in their eyes.
Mm.
Now on the blog that I wrote about it, there's a person in there with very dark eyes, but there's white showing. In the case of the black-eyed people, there's no white almost at all showing in their eyes. They're pure black. They're described as lid to lid, dead black orbs, devoid of sclera or iris. They will send a chill up your spine. This is the way they're written about. And
Mm.
these little children or people, they're often spotted, panhandling or hitchhiking, or they'll come and stand on the doorstep of your home, they or your vehicle while you're stopped in traffic. They'll come up to and they'll knock on the door. They'll insist that they want to get inside. And from what the people who write about these legends tell you, anyone who's encountered them has almost immediately felt an overwhelming sense of dread. So
Mm.
they feel all of a sudden like, something that there's something bad about these people. One of the stories that I found was about a woman and her husband who were traveling in Michigan, and they stopped at a rest area, and just as the woman was going into the restroom, one of these black-eyed people walked out of the restroom and it stared directly at her. And she said, "Oh, I instantly felt this sense of dread. There was something deeply unnatural about her eyes." And she said she felt an extremely strong need to get away as quickly as possible. And she said that her stare was devoid of all emotion, other than something very cold and disconnected. And she said, "My instant and unwavering feeling during this whole experience was that she was not human."
Mm.
And that being not human is the constant in the stories. Another one, a woman at 11 o'clock at night, a couple of children were standing on. They knocked on her door, and she, stuck her head out the window to say, "What is it that you want?" And they said they want to come inside, and she said no. She wouldn't let them come in, and they had these very, very black eyes. And she said she again had that feeling of terrible evil surrounding her, unhappiness, and that it was horrible. So what do the experts say about it? Well, uh, Barry Napier, he writes for UFO Digest. I don't know. I mean, he's an expert, I guess, in UFOs, but he wrote something on black-eyed kids, and he says that those black eyes could be nothing more than contact lenses, so it could be kind of a ruse, a joke. Um, Solid black contacts are available. I mean, who knew that? But he said that the most likely scenario is that the few convincing reports were the results of overactive imaginations, um, and that the string of stories really that we have out there are nothing more than copycat stories used for attention or fun. But he does say the accounts do have certain things in common. The people who tell the stories are very passionate. They believe they've encountered something very strange and something inhuman, and they were very frightened by the encounter. So that's one thing they have really in common. But is it possible that these beings are actually demons? And of course it is. Because Satan is a preternatural being, which means he has the power to appear in a variety of forms, from the figures of Jesus and Mary to animals and aliens. So he can do that. My advice to people is if you should ever encounter one of these beings, the very first thing to do is call upon your guardian angel for help. And the second thing is to head for the nearest exit. Just get
Mhm.
away. Don't have anything
Mhm.
to do with it. But that is the legend of the black eyed people, or what we mistook as him saying the black-eyed beans,
Beans.
and we were furiously looking it up during the show.
Beans.
What's the black-eyed bean? What's so
Yeah,
scary about a
exactly.
bean? And
Right. That was so funny. That was so funny. Well, there's a lot of mysterious things that are happening, today. And make no mistake about it, we're living in a very strange time. How do we look at these things? I think that you give us good insight, Sue, when you say, I mean, obviously, if something like this should occur, the very first thing that you want to do is just say a prayer. And one of the best prayers that you can pray is the Hail Mary. We know that exorcists tell us that demons hate the Hail Mary, and they hate that beautiful, beautiful prayer that is an aspiration that we should pray many times through the course of the day. O Mary, conceived without sin, pray for us who have recourse to thee. If it is a demonic presence, they're not going to stand up under that. It says in Scripture, resist the devil and he will flee. I don't know about the UFO thing. I know that there's, through the many years, there's been a lot of talk about UFOs, and there have been some indications that UFOs have actually been captured by the government, and they're located in these desert regions. And we've heard lots of stories of late about the possibility of this. We've had some kinds of odd things that have happened to some of our military forces at sea. I don't quite know what I think about that. But, if in fact there is something like that, then again, we wouldn't know very much about the population or these aliens. And so the best recourse we can always have, anytime we are unsettled by the presence of anything, whether it's something we can see or it's something that we sense, we go right to prayer. And if you have holy water in your handbag, ladies or gentlemen, in a little small vial in your pants pocket, boy, oh boy, I'd get it out and use it right away.
that's right. I would do the same thing. I would not, fool around with anything like you said that inspires that kind of fear or dread
Hmm.
in you. If there's just get away from it immediately. Don't try to engage it. The last thing you
That's
want to do
right.
is try to talk to it. Don't do anything like that. Just turn around and leave, but pray as you're doing so. And I think it's excellent suggestion to pray the Hail Mary, call upon your guardian angel for protection, and then just get out of there
That's
and don't have
exactly
anything to do
right.
with it. Because who knows? I mean, he can form himself into anything he wants. And we've heard
Hmm.
stories on Wacky Wednesday from people who have had beings appear in their bedrooms at night, and they're all kinds of horrible shapes and sizes. So the devil can take on whatever disguise he wants. He has that power because he's a preternatural being. But we have recourse to Jesus, who
That's
is the
right.
King of creation. He is the one with all the power, and all we have to do is call upon him right there to help us.
That's right, and it's a good idea. And just a general kind of piece of advice and counsel. It's always a good idea to have your home blessed. It really is. So, do blessings wear out? I don't think blessings wear out, but I do think that it's important to renew that blessing on a rather regular basis. I mean, just think about this: we renew our baptismal vows in a very formal way every year. At Easter time, right? So it isn't that we have to be rebaptized, but it's really a stirring up of those graces. So to go ahead and to have your home blessed is a good idea. I like the idea about calling upon our guardian angel, and I like the idea about not engaging them, because just think about right there at the dawn of human civilization, right there is there is Satan. Now, is Satan a serpent? Is he a dragon? No, he isn't. He is non-corporeal, but as you say, he takes on a guise, right? He can present himself to us in any form, even in the form of a human person. So when you think about that, what did he do? He beguiled Eve, and she stupidly began to talk with him. And then she was captive. She was in his snare. So we don't mess around with this stuff. So very good advice and counsel from you, Sue. And I hope that none of you ever have to employ any of the advice and counsel that Sue and I have just given, because we hope that you never see one of these. I sure hope I never see one of these. I'm not looking to see anything odder than what I see in the natural world right now taking
That's right.
place.
That's right. Me neither. Me neither.
I know there's a lot of crazy stuff that's going on out there. We don't need to add to it. 833-288-EWTN. That's That's 833-288-3986 is the way that you can join us here. Also available for you at EWTN Radio's YouTube channel and Facebook page. We have Thomas with us, and Thomas is with us from Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Good morning to you, Thomas.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for taking my call. The reason I was calling today is you hear so much in the literature these days about the rise of demonic activity in this country because of the sort of the waning tide of Christianity in general. Mm-hmm. And you hear a lot about the Exorcist, and Hollywood has really jumped on the bandwagon with a lot of that stuff. My question is for those of us, I've recently read one of Father Robert Spitzer's books, and then at some point in this quest for holiness, the normal way of demonic influence is for most people is temptation.
Yes.
So once you hit a certain level of holiness, that really becomes more of a direct confrontation with the demonic on a regular basis. And as a lay faithful, we hear very little about that. And it seems like this would be a tool that God would want to be used to help lukewarm Catholics strengthen their faith and become more aware of the spiritual warfare that's actually going on. And I'm just wondering, why don't we hear more about seminarians and infiltration, demonic infiltrations at seminaries, and the things that I suspect are really happening on a big scale, but they just are. Our pastors and holy people in our lives that are alive really don't talk about that much anymore, or don't talk about that much at all. Mm-hmm. The big famous one is Padre Pio. He regularly got beaten up by demons.
Right.
And that kind of stuff, I think if that was more realistic to people today, I think it'd be more helpful to the Catholic faith in general.
Well, I'll tell you, you're singing my song when you say that we need to hear more about temptation from our pastors, right? We need to hear about the ordinary ways in which the demonic works in our lives. The extraordinary ways always seem to capture our imagination and our attention. And there's a bit of sensationalism, or maybe a lot of sensationalism attached to these things. And so, it builds a curiosity to know more. I remember years ago, Sue, Father Benedict Groeschel of happy memory wrote a book called A Still Small Voice, and he was talking about, the various aspects of private revelation. And it was really a response to the numbers of reported apparitions that was going on at that time. But one of the things that he said is that we have to really guard ourselves against a prurient type of curiosity, an inordinate curiosity about the things of darkness, as well as even about the angelic realm. We've got to guard ourselves from that, because that can lead us down all kinds of paths, and we can fall victim to the temptation that incites within us. But there is the ordinary way in which the evil one works is through temptation.
It is. It's very powerful, and it's very effective. Mm-hmm. That's the route that he used to make Adam and Eve fall, right?
That's right.
So I mean, that is very, very effective, and that's, to me, I look at temptation as a strength training exercise. That's something that, and I agree 100% with Thomas that what we need to do is hear a little bit more about this in church, so that people aren't they're getting kind of into the fantastic about Satan, and the ordinary, what they need to know, is just being overlooked, such as what Thomas is saying about temptation. Mm-hmm. And how does temptation manifest? Well, to different forms of impurity, anger, look at the hatred, look at the division that's going on in our world today. Boy, that is a temptation to begin to hate others, or to just be unkind and uncharitable to other people. So that's the kind of temptation we have to really learn how to steel ourselves against by calling upon the grace of God. Yes. And really trying to train our will to resist these things, and to say to Jesus, I do not consent to these thoughts. Jesus, I do not consent to these emotions. I don't want to feel this, right? I don't want to do anything with this bad emotion that I'm feeling right now. We have to learn how to do that without fear. Now, as far as the extraordinary, see, this is what's in all the movies, all the books. It's the extraordinary manifestations of Satan. And we know from exorcists who tell us that that's the last way that he wants to manifest himself, because his greatest tactic is to convince us that he doesn't exist.
Exactly.
And once he goes into the extraordinary, now everybody knows he exists, because it's, possession. We have doctors now. Thinking of Dr. Richard Gallagher, for one, the psychiatrist who's, he helps the church, because yes, there are cases of possession. There is such a thing as an evil being. See, Satan doesn't really want that. What he would like to do is just keep doing the temptation because he can stay behind the scenes. He can pretend he's just invisible. Oh, it's not me. And I think that what people need to understand what temptation is, because, like what you warned us about, giving way to prurient type thoughts and watching that curiosity, that's what happens.
Yes.
They start to dabble around in it. They read the book about, the Harry Potter book about the magic, and then all of a sudden, well, you know what, they're on the website. Let me type in this thing about magic and see what this is. And then they get more and more and more into it. It lures them in. So that moment of curiosity is something that they have to learn how to steel themselves against and say, no, I don't want to go there. I'm not going to go there. And to learn how to stay away from it. I have to look at these things, some of these websites, when I'm, doing our research in that. And I'll tell you something. They're very attractive. They're state of the art. I can see how young people get lured into it. They think, wow, this is pretty hip looking, They know what they're doing. And
Yes.
Satan knows what he's doing. He's behind all that stuff. But he
That's
likes
right.
to stay in the background. He
Yes,
likes
he
to stay
does.
in the background. He really doesn't want to show himself through manifestations that we all like to hear about on the haunting shows. He really doesn't want to do that.
No.
He would prefer to just sit there and tempt you because that's really the most effective way, and he can get you to sin. And he's been
It's
doing that
interest-
since the beginning of time, right?
That's exactly right. And it's interesting because Thomas, for a homily to be preached on temptation automatically means that there must be sin. And we never hear the word sin coming from our pulpits today. Very rarely do we hear the word sin. Well, we do hear it from time to time, but not regularly, not often enough. And maybe there was a time when there was an overabundance of homilies that were preached that way. But the fact of the matter is today, there's rarely a homily preached that way. So if you say, well, let's talk about temptation, then the question is temptation to what? Well, temptation to sin. So what is sin? That means that, obviously there is a moral standard and there is an objective morality by which we can evaluate actions. We don't want to hear that today as a culture. The culture has convinced us that there is no such thing as sin. Everything is relative. It's all up to us. Unfortunately, we get that party line fed either directly sometimes, through some homilies, or we get it preached by omission. There's commission or omission. Now, I'm not saying that that's true of all priests. Don't misunderstand me. But I am saying that you are right. We need to hear more about temptation, but we need to hear more about temptation to what? To sin. Sin does exist. That's the way we get the evil one involved in our lives anyway. So more to come on the other side of the break. Sue Brinkman is in the house. It's a Wacky Wednesday, 833-288-EWTN, EWTN Radio's YouTube channel, Facebook page. We're coming right back. Stay with us.
This is Life Issues with Brad Mattis, president of Life Issues Institute.
Much of the nation will be watching the Super Bowl this Sunday. As a former longtime resident of Cincinnati, I don't have to tell you who I'll be rooting for, but I want you to know a member of the LA team. Tanisha was under heavy pressure to abort her baby, but thanks to the Open Door Maternity Home, she chose life and gave birth to a son, Marquise Copeland. He grew up to be a fine young man and an amazing football player. Fast forward to this football season, Marquise is playing defensive lineman for the Los Angeles Rams. In the playoffs, he was credited with a crucial interception that helped propel the team to the Super Bowl. If you'll be watching the game, keep an eye out for number 93. Tanisha's unplanned pregnancy was God's special miracle.
For more information, visit our website at lifeissues.org and stay informed, more informed than you've ever been.
This is Johnnette Williams. If you missed part of today's show, catch the encore tomorrow morning at 3 Eastern. Check out the podcast anytime at EWTNradio.net and click podcasts.
I still have my sanity because of EWTN and listening to your station. Everybody needs to listen to positive things. If you only listen to the negative things, it just gets very bad. If it weren't for your uplifting and wonderful people that conduct your programs, I don't know if I could still be not crying.
EWTN, helping people grow in their love and understanding of God.
tomorrow on More to Life, Facing Fears.
Is fear or anxiety holding you back? We'll help you conquer your fears and achieve your goals.
That's tomorrow on More to Life. Now back to Women of Grace.
Transforming the world one woman at a time. Let's return to Women of Grace with Johnnette Williams.
Well, welcome back, everybody. We're so happy you are with us today, and we're encouraging you to give us a call right here on Women of Grace Live, where we love to have that holy conversation with you. It is Wednesday. That means that Sue Brinkman is in the house. We're talking about things that are slightly off-centered or maybe greatly off-centered. We talk about the wacky things on Wacky Wednesday here, and we're inviting you to pick up the phone, give us a call. 833-288-EWTN is the toll-free number for you to use if you're in North America. That's 833-288-3986. Also eager to hear from you if you're outside of North America. Country code 1-205-271-2985. Again, that's country code 1-205-271-2985. And we're available for you out there at EWTN Radio's YouTube channel and Facebook page. Simply use the chat feature there to put your question or comment in. We will retrieve it and we'll get it up on the board. So, Sue, we have Enrique with us. He is in Las Vegas, Nevada today. Good morning, Enrique. How are you?
My call.
You're welcome.
I love your show, by the way.
Thank you. Yes, we hear you just fine.
Thanks for taking my call. So I was calling because we lost our grandmother, my sister and I, about a year ago. And my sister, she kind of tends to dream. She had like 3 or 4 dreams with my grandmother. There was like, from what she told me, it was a nice dream. There was another dream that was not that pretty, and there was one that she saw her like in a young state. Like in her younger years. So I'm not really sure about the dream things. I think you're not really supposed to pay attention to them. I just wanted to get your feedback on that. Like, is there anything that we really should be paying attention to?
Oh, Enrique, thank you for your question. It's a good one. Sue?
Our loved ones, can you hear me?
Start over, Sue, because we didn't get you up there vocally.
Okay. God does allow our loved ones to visit us in dreams. Sometimes there's a lot of people who've said they've had that. They'll just have a dream of their loved one just smiling at them, letting them know. And they'll instantly know without even hearing a word, nothing is spoken. They'll just instantly know that everything is fine. However, if you're just having a dream about a loved one who's deceased now as just being like a part of your life, that's not unusual. It's not uncommon. I recently lost my mother. I still have dreams about my mom being in there because she's a part of my life. She was a part of my life, and people who are a part of life are going to show up in your dreams. It's just sort of like how when you move to a new home, you still dream about living in your old home. That sort of thing. I don't think that there's anything to be alarmed about by that. I don't know how much I would read into it. Other than the fact that they were a part of your life. They're also obviously they're a part of your heart. You're dreaming about them. They're in your mind. They're in your subconscious, and I think that's as far as that I would go with it. I mean, unless they're giving you some kind of messages, then I wouldn't read too much into it. But if they are giving you some kind of messages, then you may need to take that to prayer and find out what exactly is going on there.
Yeah, and seek the counsel of a priest.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you're right, Sue. I think oftentimes when it's a very recent loss of a loved one, it's our subconscious mind trying to work through that grief. So we'll dream about them in various ways. But oftentimes it's just, as you say, these individuals have been part of your life. I frequently in dreams dream of my deceased husband, my deceased son. My parents will pop up there. My grandma will come in. And they're kind of just part of a group, generally speaking, or it's an interaction that's taking place at a family occasion or whatever the dream is about. And I do think that it's wise not to put too much emphasis on that. If there's something that God wants for that soul to communicate to us, God has means of doing that. And it might come through something that's very particular, and we might always, I think, consider any kind of those dreams is an opportunity to just pray for the repose of their souls. Not that it's a haunting or anything, but it does come into our dream life from our subconscious. So, okay, it never hurts to pray for the repose of their soul. So I would do that, Enrique, but I certainly wouldn't belabor it or worry about it in any way.
Perfect. Okay, thank you so much. I thought the same thing too. So thanks for confirming.
Oh, you're quite welcome.
Thank
and
you.
Thank you for your call and for listening to us. Thank you very, very much. 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. That's the way that you can join us. Our phone lines are open for you right now. We're looking forward to your question. Your question generally is a question that lots of other people have. So as I like to say, you're doing a corporal work of mercy by asking it. So do give us a call at 833-288-EWTN. No question is goofy. Right? No question is silly. All questions, are valuable for yourself to be answered and for others as well. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about these manifestations, Sue? I know that you've written something fairly recently. You've been doing some research on manifestations.
Oh, yeah. Manifesting is what it's called.
Okay.
Manifesting, it's about how to use your mind to will your goals into existence. And you use tools such as meditation, guided visualization, vision boards, other rituals. Many believe, can make big things happen for you if you just sit there and you think about them. And what this is really all the rage right now. But it's just the law of attraction now sporting this shiny new package that kind of fits our egocentric mindset these days. It's called manifesting. And it's essentially willing your goals into existence by really realizing that your thoughts are energy and they send vibrations out into the universe, and that starts to make things happen. This is obviously not Christian. Rhonda Byrne, she's the author of The Secret. She was a big preacher of this manifestation type things, but there's many more since Rhonda's day. It's kind of like it's based on the New Thought movement of the 19th century spiritualist Phineas Quimby, philosophical, religious traditions such as Hinduism, Transcendentalism, none of which is compatible with Christianity. So, and what I was reading about it, the experts in it kind of have names like Moon, Onyx, Star, like, oh yeah, you can consult this stuff and your negative emotions and sending out these vibrations. No. There is no vibration. First of all, there's no energy in the universe. That's we've discussed that many times on this show. That's as a putative form of energy that has no scientific evidence to back it up. It doesn't exist. There's no such thing as these vibrations that go out into the universe and then make things happen for you. But people are doing kind of crazy things with this manifesting. There's the TikTok manifesting method called the 369 manifesting method, and that's where you recite your goal 3 times in the morning, 6 times during the day, and then 9 times in the evening. This was invented by Nikola Tesla, because he felt that those 3 numbers, 3, 6, and 9, were the keys to the universe. So you can see what we're doing here. We're getting into superstition. We're calling upon false gods. Hey, make this happen for me. Yeah, occult powers. This is really what this is all about with the manifestation. And the bottom line is they believe they don't need God or His will to determine the future. That you can just create it yourself through the power of your mind and with the guidance and the cooperation of the universe. So I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound very Catholic to me. And our question was, hey, can I get involved in this? And I would have to say no. Do not get involved in that at all. Don't even begin to go down that road, because you're going to get led into it. Just like what you were saying about the curiosity, you're going to start to get into it, especially if something coincidental should happen. You think, well, wow, I was just thinking about, how much I need $100. Now, I got a $100 check or a $100 refund, and you're going to start thinking, oh yeah, I want to keep doing this. And you got to be very, very careful of anything that's telling you that your thoughts can control reality. They can control your perception of reality, but not reality. And that's 2 different things. And right now it's very big out there, very big in the millennial population. They're just into this, that they can make things happen with their minds. So we're kind of like we're going back, 200 years to Phineas Quimby, to where this all began, this whole new thought movement. If you could uh, perceive it, you can achieve it.
Hmm. Yeah. Very much a part, really, of a lot of business seminars. And I've mentioned this before on the air years ago, attending a business seminar with my late husband, and they had a speaker there. And this was the whole thing that he was presenting to these people, and people were gobbling it up, because there's a sense of power and control. And I think we live in a day and time where there are so many things that are going on in the world today, we feel powerless, and we feel that we have no control. So anything that appeals to this idea that I can make things happen for me. Now, of course, there is truth in that, but it's not by thinking it into being, right? We are not creators, we are created. We image God, but we are not God. So we can cooperate with the grace of God, and through cooperation with the grace of God, we can make great changes in our lives, and we can achieve a sense of peace, a sense of hope, sense of gratitude and well-being. That is what we're supposed to do with grace. But this idea that I can control everything that happens to me by the thinking that the thoughts that I allow myself to meditate upon and contemplate, then we're entering into an occult worldview where we can manipulate the elements of the universe through some kind of magic. And here it's not MAGIC, it's MAJICK, right? Occult powers. So we're not talking about sleight of hand, is what I'm trying to say. We're talking about, this really dark kind of stuff.
Right, right. And you have to just be very careful that you don't attribute to the mind a power that it really doesn't have.
That's right.
Because once you start to go down that road, the good Lord only knows where you're going to end up. And there's so many different traps out here in New Age, especially with this brain rewiring and all this stuff that people are into right now. And they're telling you that it's neuroscience and you can like train yourself to think in a certain way that's going to make you a more virtuous person, or it's going to, enable all these different things in your life to come true that you always wanted. It's going to raise your self-esteem. I mean, affirmations are one thing, but this is not affirmation.
No.
This is people believing that you can think a certain way and then change who you are. And that's just
Right.
not, it's not Catholic for one thing. We don't want to get involved in stuff like that.
That's right. And we cannot incorporate that into our life of faith under any circumstances. Then it's a heretical thing that we're doing called syncretism. We have a comment call that was left for us, Sue, and I want to take that before we go back to the phone lines. So let's set that up for us, Rich.
Hi, my message is for Johnnette Williams. I have a 18-year-old son who is wearing nail polish. He's received all his sacraments. He's been raised a Catholic. He's a good boy. He started first semester in college and lives in a different town now, but visiting for the holidays. And other than that, I don't have any other concerns, but I want to know what to think of him wearing dark nail polish. He says it's just a fashion statement. I want to know what I should think about this or what I should do or say. I'm not sure quite. I'm 58, he's 18, and he is my son.
Of course.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so very much for your call. And this is something that, can signal something or not signal something, I suppose, Sue.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, the black nail polish is kind of the rage right now with guys in 2020.
It's back again. I mean, it was here
yeah.
once before in the early 2000s.
But with guys wearing
with guys.
it. And
yeah.
Oh, really? I don't remember that. But it's what they're saying now is that it represents that this person who's wearing that, it feels comfortable with themselves, that they don't have to prove anything to anybody. It's sort of like it kind of represents their assertiveness as a person. I don't see anything. I've never read anything occult or evil oriented, with this or associated with this. Merely that it is, like he says, it's a fashion statement, but it's also a statement about what he's saying about himself. Hey, I'm comfortable with me. And that's what this black nail polish can mean.
Well, back in the day, like in the early 2000s, when this was popular among young men, and I would see them in various locations. But the fact of the matter is, it was really, it was part of that whole goth kind of a thing. where people
Yeah.
were dressing from head to toe in black, and it kind of symbolized that it did symbolize something that was dark, something that was on the other side of good, right? Evil is very strong because I think that it was a fad as well, but for some people it was not, and so that's why I said it just depends on how you read it. It's interesting to me because it almost sounds indicative, because if you're really comfortable with yourself, do you need to prove it? I mean, don't you just live it, you know? So do I have
Good
to wear a certain
question.
shade of nail polish to show you that I'm really confident with myself, which indicates to me that I'm not so confident with myself, that I've got to help people, I've got to prove it, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I don't think really confident people have to, you know, do odd things to show how, you know, pleased they are, you know, with where they are. Just a thought. Just sounds counterintuitive to me.
It is. It actually is. But I mean, maybe they just want other people to know that they're confident. But I can tell a confident person just by spending a few minutes with them if they're confident
That's
or
right.
not. You can tell by the way they walk, by the way they talk, their gestures, their mannerisms. You can tell when a person's confident. You can tell when a person's a little bit more reserved or holding back a little bit. Um, I can tell that. I don't need to. The last thing I do is look at what's on their nails. I don't know about you, but I don't really look at people's nail polish. It just doesn't mean anything to me, but it does to certain groups of people.
Yeah.
Um, and so, but I don't know that I would be that worried about it,
Hmm.
if I could put it that way. I wouldn't be that concerned.
I would
If you are
ask him
worried about
though.
something, yeah, I mean, to ask him about it, that would be great. And if you see something else starting to manifest in his life,
Right.
or is he moving along with the wrong type of people or whatever, then you might want to draw some correlations. But I don't know. I just in itself, just wearing black nail polish, I would say it probably is a fashion statement and a statement about,
Yeah.
hey, I'm confident. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that this question came up because it was just probably last week or so. I saw a young man with black nail polish, and I thought, oh, are we back to that again? Anyway, there you have it. These things come in and go out. Let's go to Phyllis. She is in St. Louis, Missouri this morning, and she's listening to us via Covenant Radio, and we're pleased about that. How are you, Phyllis?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Good. And what is your question for us today?
I'd like to know what mindfulness actually is.
Well, that's a good question. We can tell you about it. Go ahead, Sue.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually wrote a book about it called The Catholic Guide to Mindfulness, which we have in our store at Women of Grace and at EWTN. And what it is a Buddhist method of teaching people how to be mindful of the present moment. And you don't make any judgment call about the present moment. You just stay in the present. Whatever is, is. Whatever's happened to you, whatever your thoughts are, you just let them go by. You don't engage with them. You don't say they're good, they're bad. It just is. And you learn how to just be mindful. And one of the ways that you do that is through the practice of Buddhist meditation techniques. That's known as the practice of mindfulness. And I'm assuming that's what you're asking about. What is the practice of mindfulness? That's the practice that's in all our schools right now. That's the one that's so heavily publicized. You see it in magazines, and it's all over the place. That's the popular form of mindfulness. That's the practice of it. And that's based on the Buddhist practice of mindfulness. You can be a mindful person just by learning how to, count to 10 before you spout off, and learn how to stop and smell the roses, that sort of thing, being a little bit more, instead of being reactionary, to just keep yourself more under control. That's known as the concept of being mindful, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you don't need to move into that practice of mindfulness. You don't need Buddhist meditation techniques to teach you how to do that. Okay, and that's really what mindfulness is. It's using Buddhist meditation to teach you how to just be mindful of the present moment. So it's sort of like blanking the mind, only instead of being hyper-focused on the mental activity, you're hyper-focused on the present. So that's essentially what mindfulness is. And they use it with people to treat them for trauma. They teach them that when those traumatic thoughts come to them, to just, they just are. You don't judge them one way or another. You just let them go by. It's also being taught to children in schools. And they teach the children how to, quiet down before class or something like that by teaching them just don't judge your thoughts one way or another. This is why it's so dangerous for Christian and Catholic children, because sometimes their thoughts are not good thoughts. And bad thoughts need to be addressed because they can lead to bad actions. So any schools that have this in it, that's something that you need to really discuss with the authorities there of that school, especially if it's a public school, because of its basis. That kind of mindfulness, its basis in Buddhism, could be grounds for a violation of the Establishment Clause. So,
Yeah.
and that's already going on right now.
And one of the things I think is very concerning is that there's a tendency to regard Buddhist mindfulness, which is the technique that's being taught, and really embraced by the culture, versus the practice of the present moment, where we are attentive to the grace that God's giving us each and every moment and the presence of God in that moment. So to conflate those, I think is where a lot of danger comes to Catholics. And Phyllis, I thank you for your call. It's an important one. I want to go to Patrick in Stamford, Connecticut. We just have a couple of minutes left, and he's got a question that's very closely related to this. So I think it's a good question to incorporate into our program today. Patrick, how are you today? And can you give us your question so that we can get you an answer before the show's over? Hey, Patrick. Are you there, Patrick?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay.
So why don't you, share with Sue. Go ahead.
Yeah. I once went to a retreat at a Catholic retreat center on centering prayer. I know this was something started by Trappist monks in Massachusetts. Seems to me very close to mindfulness. I just wanted to get your opinion on that.
Thanks, Patrick.
Yeah.
I think that's an excellent question to ask. Go ahead, Sue.
It is. It's not Buddhist. It's actually Hindu. It's based in transcendental meditation, and it is mind blanking. That's absolute mind blanking, centering prayer. Even though they use the name of Jesus and they use a Christian word, it doesn't matter. They're using that word to blank all thoughts from the mind, and that's not the definition of Christian prayer. Christian prayer is always a dialogue with God. It's a two-way conversation. So anytime you're just sitting there blanking your mind for 20 minutes, that's not prayer. That's a relaxation exercise. It has nothing to do with prayer. So centering prayer has come under a lot of criticism because of that, and because of the fact that it does come from Hinduism. Those Trappist monks actually had Hindu gurus there teaching them this kind of stuff, and they decided to kind of make this mishmash and apply some Christian labels to it and go, okay, we're gonna go out there and do this. And that's really what centering prayer is. It's a spawn. Yeah. I refer to it as a spawn of transcendental meditation, because it's the exact same thing, only they're taking Christian words and using them as the mantra to blank the mind rather than the name of Hindu gods.
Right. And it's not prayer at all. And that, even in its name, it's deceptive. And all Christian meditation, contrarily, uses the faculties of the human person, uses the intellect, uses the imagination, uses the emotions. So it's very, very far away and very distant from what we know to be true prayer. So thank you for that, Patrick. Sue, here we are at the end of the program. Came too quickly, as it always does.
Yes,
Thank
always so fast.
It does. Thank you for being with us this week. We're going to be back with Sue next Wednesday. It is a regular feature here on Women of Grace Live, this Wacky Wednesday business. So please do join us next week. In the meantime, get out there to our website, womenofgrace.com. Read the New Age blog. New Age at womenofgrace.com is a direct path to get there. And we want to see you